Welcome back to part 2 of our discussion of essential tools you need to be a metalsmith. The very first bench pin I purchased, I will show you, was this one here. It clamps to the table and raises your bench pin up off the table. That's nice so you don't have to lean over. However, I would not recommend this bench pin, especially to someone starting out, because it has some flex in it right here. So as you're sawing, it's bouncing. You wouldn't think that would make a difference, but it does make it a lot harder to saw. So I still keep this for when I'm doing tutorials so people can see what I'm doing, but this would not be your best choice. You'll also see some bench pins that are just a bench pin and a clamp. Those are fine, but what I'm gonna recommend to you is this style bench pin. It clamps to the table, has a removable pin, so as you can see, they get pretty beat up when you're working on them. When they get too beat up, you toss them and get a new one. But the reason I think this is an excellent bench pin is because it has an anvil surface right here. This is where you can do a lot of your hammering. Eventually, you'll probably buy a jeweler's block for doing your hammering. But starting out, this is a twofer. And this bench pin is only $13.85 through Rio. The next thing you're going to need are some needle files. What are needle files? They're little tiny files like this. They usually come in a set like this. You don't need this many. And they have different profiles, different shapes to get in little different tiny areas. This is a set from Rio. I did find a super cheap set from Harbor Freight for $3.99. I cannot vouch for the quality of these files. They may break on you, but for $3.99, it's maybe worth checking out. When it comes to files, you can get very expensive files and very cheap files. Very expensive files do make your life better. So as you have more money and upgrade, files are going to be one of the first things that you upgrade. In addition to your needle files, you're going to want some larger files. You will likely want a half round file. You can see this cross section is rounded on one side, flat on the other. You get what's called a bastard file. That just means it's a general coarse grade. You may also want a flat file. This is flat on both sides and squared. The very first file I bought, this one right here, I bought it at a hardware store. I think the exact same file is available through Harbor Freight for $3.49. I've been using this thing for over a decade. This is my go-to file when I don't want to mess up my really expensive jeweler's files. It's wonderful. It's getting really worn. I love it. This is a great file to have, and it was super cheap. Next week, we'll finish up our discussion of essential tools, and we'll give you the whole list and the rundown on how much it's going to cost. If you want to keep seeing more videos from me, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.